Here we have a Giant Propel. So this is Giant's version of aerodynamic road bike. So it incorporates some aero features in profiles and brake positions and all that sort of stuff. It's a very large frame, this one. It's barely sort of fit into the frame of the shot. From a colours point of view, it's matte black and then some gloss blue and a bit of white in there as well. So it's quite a striking looking bike. The paint though on the sort of satin matte tends to be a little bit brittle sometimes. We have seen like a knock on the top tube and the paint cracks, but the underlying carbon can still be okay sometimes. So the paint's quite thick, so to give it a nice sort of sleek lines and sleek finish, but it can be a little bit brittle sometimes. As I said, if paint was strong enough, you just make bikes out of paint. You wouldn't need carbon, but yeah. So yeah, it's quite chunky down to the bottom bracket. Good size chainstays. Now this bike came in because the rear dropout failed where the hanger was attached to it. So it was still yeah, you can see it's still attached to the bike, but it was all delaminated and it was beyond repair. So the owner of the bike said, "Yep, that's you can have it and cut it up," and that's what we're doing. Well, that's what I've done. I've cut it up to show you guys. So yeah, a bit of an aerodynamic feature on the seat stays there as well, and the brakes are sort of mounted on that. So that's what it looks like on the outside. Let's go to the inside and have a look and see what we can find. So down the bottom bracket sections, a lot of area which will generate a lot of stiffness through there. So there is a few little areas of resin wrinkling and things like that, but that's pretty minor, and overall that area is pretty good. It's a press fit style bottom bracket, but with the Shimano system, and to be honest, we haven't really seen many problems with that. That's sort of been a better system. So yeah, that seems to be working quite well. There's a join for the down tube to the bottom bracket like there, and there's plenty of adhesive in that. No voids or anything like that to speak of there. So that's all looking pretty good. Nice good solid junction in that region. Then moving up the down tube, we've got some inserts there and a bit of extra reinforcement, some twill reinforcement there, and the rest of it's all unidirectional. You can see those sort of lines across the bike, and they're sort of like ply drop-offs and like steps where there's an additional material running from the head tube down to the down tube. Extra reinforcement there, so they've done that with steps. Then into the head tube. Now there is a little bit of a wrinkle there, and there's a mark there you can see in green from the factory. So they've identified that, but I don't know whether they've actually gone and done anything about it, or whether they've determined that to be okay or not. Obviously the bike left the factory, so they deemed it to be okay. But there is a little bit of a wrinkle through there. Overall, not too bad. It's still pretty smooth, but just that wrinkle and a few other little indications there. But again, that's all looking pretty clean. And then you can notice the molded-in headset and the cable guide as well. So that's all incorporated into the laminate. Moving down the top tube. Now there was a little indication here which you can see right now. So there's a planar void in that area, and they're usually caused by like air being trapped in that location between the pliers. So with unidirectional material in particular, there isn't a clear air path for voids and trapped air in layup to be released and come out. So so being in the location it is only sort of one ply down or two plies down thereabouts, it's not as significant as if it's sort of right in the middle of the structure, but still not ideal. I mean, the rest of the top tube is all pretty clean though. So you've got an insert there for the rear cable, and that's an aluminium insert, and bonded in, and yeah, it all looks pretty good. On the seat mast here, you can see there's a wrinkle that runs quite a long way down. So that wrinkle is so the fiber's actually folded up. That's what a wrinkle is. It's not, when I say wrinkles, it's not just a resin. It's actually when the fiber has got a kink in it. You can also see a couple of little voids there, sort of at the underside of the seat stay and seat tube junction, in that area there. So when they've wrapped in those plies, a couple of ply drop-off steps there as well, moving down the seat tube. You've got the wheel cutout area, and then you've got some reinforcement where the front derailleur hanger is, and you've got the riv nuts there, so it's a replaceable front derailleur hanger to reduce problems there. Back into the bottom bracket junction, into the chainstay junction. Now that's a really solid junction there. There's good adhesive, and again moving along the chainstay, some ply drop-offs, and then the fitting for the cable, the rear derailleur cable, and it's a metal fitting, and it's sort of bonded in and wrapped in and isolated, and yeah, it seems like it's quite a real solid connection. You can see the bonded dropout there with a bit of extra adhesive spew out, but yeah, it all looks pretty solid. A couple of tiny little voids, a bit of porosity, adhesive porosity right down on the bottom there, and then a carbon dropout, and you can see sort of like all the fiber orientations through there. So these are typically made with compression molding, so they just put bundles of fiber into a mold and press it and get some really high compaction through that area. Having a look at the other side, so where the derailleur hanger attaches, so that the hole at the back end of it, and so that's where that whole tip then failed across that area with the delamination. So having a hole sort of right near sort of thin tip like that is probably asking for trouble, really, from a design point of view. And we do see a lot of problems, with a whole range of bikes when they have sort of that sort of style. So the Cervelos were really common for it. We've had Looks do it. We've had a whole bunch of bikes do the same sort of thing. Up the seat stay, again, really clean molding. All that's pretty good. Now it's got brake mounts, aluminium brake mounts molded in for direct mount brakes, and that's really well done in terms of the aluminium piece tapers away basically to a knife edge, which makes it a really strong lamination, and so that thing is never going to come out, and it appears to be well isolated for corrosion and all that sort of stuff. So that's all looks really good through there. There has been a bit of a push to go to these direct mount brakes, and so it does change the loading of the part a little bit compared to like a brake bridge where all the loads are going to go through that, whereas having different loads going through each stay. So, but there are some aerodynamic advantages and some tyre clearance advantages from that. So, and then back up to the junction there where there's again good adhesive, and yeah, so that's a good look inside the Giant Propel. Okay, so that's the Giant Propel. So how does it compare to some of the other bikes? Well, overall, I think it's pretty good. As you saw, there are a couple of little things, like on the top tube, that void and that sort of wrinkle in the head tube. I mean, the laminate was very thick, and looking at it a bit further with the scan, that wrinkle didn't propagate very far, so it was pretty much on the surface. So pretty minor little things. Some nice features, the way the brake bosses bonded in. So overall, pretty well put together bike. The downside is
the dropout, and that's why the bike was scrapped in the first place. The way, and this we see this on so many brands with dropout failures. It's like the replaceable dropout. The idea of the replaceable dropout is to protect the frame from damage. However, with carbon frames, it almost seems to do the opposite. Having drilled holes in thin sections on carbon is just asking for trouble, and that's what we see. So we see so many bikes come through that have had issues with rear derailleur hangers, either failing and then impacting the stays, like the chain stay or the seat stay, and causing damage that way. So that, in my opinion, that's an area that really needs to be reviewed from a design point of view across many of the brands. A few of them do it quite well, but some of them do it very, very poorly. So in this case, as you could see, the cross section in that area was so small, and you have two holes, so you've got very little material through there, and the nature of carbon, it doesn't like having holes drilled in it. So that having a hole makes a discontinuity in the fibre. So the strength is all along the length of the fibre, and if you drill a hole in it or cut the fibre, then you lose all that strength. Like cutting a rope, it's the same sort of thing. So that's one area that could have improved on this bike. We don't see on these models much problems with the ISP, but on the TCRs we do see problems there where people have over tightened, and there are flaws in it. I think this one, because it's a larger cross section, it's probably a little bit more reliable. There was that long wrinkle up the length of it, which could cause a problem, particularly if it was sort of at the leading edge or the trailing edge. But being on the side is probably the least likely area to cause a problem. Yeah, so that's the Giant Propel. I mean, the reality is Giant make so many bikes, not just their own brand, for other brands as well, that they wouldn't be in business if they were making rubbish product. So overall, pretty good. A couple of little things to improve on from a manufacturing point of view, and a couple of little design things. But yeah, overall not bad. So that's the Propel. I do have the Look 695 coming as well, so keep an eye out for that soon. So I've filmed most of that. I just need to edit that, and yeah, we'll bring that to you as soon as I can. All right, in the meantime, be well, get some riding in, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.